Happy New Year, and I have a very special guest with me today, Seth Leonard. Seth is over in San Fran. How you doing, Seth?
I'm doing great, Howard. Good to talk to you.
Absolutely. And the question for this interview is, how do we make a great website and a website that will make us some money? And Seth is an expert. He's been doing it for about 16 years now, helping people build websites, and he does it full time himself now over in San Francisco. So I'm really pumped about this one because I know myself, even for startupremarkable.com, my blog, I was looking at it over Christmas time, and I was just like, yeah, I just need to spend some time on this and really get it looking a little bit better. So Seth is going to bring us through some kind of principles of how easy it is to get started on a site if you've never had one before, and he's going to take apart some of the things on my site so you can really learn from some practical examples. So really looking forward to it, Seth.
Me too.
Awesome. So it's just to kind of kick off, if someone doesn't have a website right now, how easy is it? Because I know that, when we're growing up, it was always a really expensive or difficult thing to get a website or a blog going. Just how easy is it now?
It's a lot easier, and I think people are still kind of living in the past mindset of you need to be a programmer, or you need to hire a programmer, and you need to learn code and all that. And it's pretty amazing to see, probably over the last 3 or 4 years, that technology is really just moving towards the common person, that anybody should be able to do this. Some of the things become a little bit more advanced, and those become a little bit more challenging, and you might need a little bit of help. But to get the basics up, I'm a firm believer that absolutely anybody can do it. There's a couple pieces, and we can go into those if you want, but there are just basically 2 or 3 things you need to put together, and then you can have a website up and running.
Yeah, totally. I really want to make this as practical as possible, so at the end of it, somebody who either doesn't have a website or is thinking about it, or maybe just has a website but is kind of basic, there's real kind of practical steps they can take away from it at the end and start using them. So what are you're saying about three key things that people would use? What would you recommend?
So the first thing that I actually really recommend is people to have a plan. I think that's the one thing that people immediately want to dive into the technology part, or are intimidated by that. But I think they then skip probably the most important part, is actually thinking about what you're going to be doing, and what are people going to, how much time and resources do you have to put into it? What are you hoping to get out of a website? Do you want it just for fun? Are you trying to make money? And then how is your website going to help whatever that goal that you have for yourself? And then I think the one that a lot of people skip is who the people that are coming to your site, what are they going to want from your site? I think a lot of people I want this, this is what I want, and they make a site for that, and they completely forget the audience side of things. And so really thinking about who your audience is, what are they going to get out of your website. So creating a plan using those pieces, I think, is the first step. And it's a completely untechnical step. You don't need to know how to do anything. Just sit down with a piece of paper and kind of think through some of those things.
So person, they just get a sheet of paper, and who is it? What am I trying to achieve with it? Who are my audience? What do they want? Those kind of 3 questions? Or?
Yeah, so I just put together a free course called The Web Launch, and it's a 4-day course, free, helps you get set up, and the first day is setting up your plan, and there's a worksheet in there, but I'll give you the questions anyway. Basically,
cool.
I like to think of it as outcomes. So there are 3 outcomes you want to think about. The first one is, what is your personal outcome? So are you trying to work for yourself? Are you trying to travel the world? Are you trying to make lots of money? Are you trying to meet the love of your life? What is kind of the personal outcome you're hoping from things? The next is, what is the outcome of your website? How is your website going to help you achieve whatever that personal goal is? So if you want to travel the world, then Maybe the outcome of your website would be connecting you with people who you could stay with, or making money so you had enough money to travel wherever you wanted to, or to meet a pilot who's going to fly you around with it. Whatever it would be, that the website is then kind of translating or creating something that's going to allow you to reach your personal goal.
Sure.
And then putting those two together, what is the outcome for your audience? What are they going to get when they come to your website? What is going to make them happy to be there, want to share it with their friends, etc. So
Nice.
basically focusing on those three outcomes is kind of the starter course for putting together a plan for a website.
Sounds awesome. Awesome. And cool. So that's really the starting point. And then when you start kind of getting a little bit technical, what kind of, without going into too much detail, because I'll put the link to your free web course, which allows you to, like, basically from nothing. If you're a complete newbie, you can get a free course from you that in 4 days you'll have a working website, which is very awesome. And I was just saying to Seth earlier, like, I taught myself how to build like kind of a blog, and it's really not difficult, just if you have someone to kind of show you how. And what Seth is kind of giving there in the web launch product is really cool. But just what are the kind of like the key kind of pieces of software or programs that allow you to do it?
Right. So the next thing is to register a domain. Then you need web hosting, and then WordPress is by far the easiest and the simplest way to get a website up and running. It's free. Once you have hosting and a domain name, which are pretty inexpensive, WordPress is free. You install it on top of that. And there's a ton of different themes and designs and ways to customize it to look the way you want. And it's super simple to update and make your own.
Cool. And yeah, and you show exactly how to do that, don't you?
Yeah. So in the web launch, there's a video for each day of the course that walks you through each one of those steps. And I go through it on my computer. You can follow along and watch me do it. And then below that, I actually have text step-by-step instructions to follow as well, basically doing the exact same thing I just did in the video, with screenshots and arrows pointing to everything you need. So it's hard to get lost.
Awesome. Okay, and then on the design part, right, I know there's a lot of templates out there that we can use to make it look good. Now, I myself use these guys called Woo Themes. They're probably one of the biggest. For my theme. I must say, over Christmas I was kind of looking at my site going, I want it to look a little bit cooler. What would you recommend for me? I've been kind of looking at it, kind of going, do I get something custom made, or are there just themes out there? Because I suppose there's a lot of themes out there, but a lot of them kind of look crap. What would you recommend to getting a theme that looks really, really good, so your website, the whole look and feel of it, will look even cooler?
I think there's also, different people have different design tastes is the first thing. So I'm constantly surprised by what certain people like and what certain people don't like.
Sure.
I'm a huge fan of simplicity, and I like white backgrounds, dark text.
I saw that from your blog, actually. Yeah, it's really clean and simple to read.
So I'm a fan of that. So if somebody's kind of afraid of the technological aspects of things, or the kind of getting their hands dirty, I would probably recommend looking through the general WordPress themes, or looking through some of the paid ones. So,
like when you say the general WordPress themes, where do you find them?
When you install WordPress, there's a link to the appearance of your website, and there's a themes tab, and you can basically search through probably a couple of thousand standard free WordPress themes.
Free.
So
cool.
There's a lot of kind of basic ones to choose from. Then there are paid ones. So Theme Forest is one that has a lot of different paid ones. You can type in like premium WordPress themes into Google, and you will find more themes than you'd ever want. So those are kind of the ways that you would pick something that already exists, somebody who's kind of already done the design for you, and you're just trying to find something that matches for you. If you really want to get your hands dirty and kind of make a really custom site, there are a number of different kind of templating tools. Headway is one that I've used and I like a lot. There's PageLines. There's probably a couple others that I'm forgetting, but they basically allow you to kind of create the structure and layout of your site and then fill that in with different pieces and change colors around. So
how difficult is that, Seth?
Say that again?
How the ladder of the three. So just kind of recapping over there, you have the free standard ones, which are built into WordPress, which would probably be the least original. Then you've got premium ones, which you can go out and buy for about $50 from places like ThemeForest or Woo Themes. I bought mine from Woo Themes, and you just literally plug it into your site and instantly it looks like that. And then the last option is one that I must say I haven't used before, but I've heard a lot of the good things about it, is things like Headway or Thesis. I've heard another one. How much work is the ladder?
Well, one thing that I recommend for people is to kind of understand WordPress before they go to one of those kind of more customizable ones, and Thesis is a good example and one that I forgot. Because you kind of need to understand how the pieces of WordPress work, because basically what you're doing is you're creating a section for maybe something called a widget, and if you don't know what a widget is, then that isn't going to make sense, and you're not going to be able to create that layout. So I recommend people starting with kind of the ready-made ones, and then when they are ready and they understand WordPress, they understand the difference between a page and a post and a plugin and something, then be able to build one of those. So it depends, I think, on how complicated you want to get. The new version of Headway, and I haven't looked at Thesis in a bit, but the new version of Headway is really just kind of, you draw a box and you say, I want my navigation here, and I want this sidebar here, and I want this kind of footer here, and you're basically just actually drawing squares on a page and then plugging things in and changing the colors. So
how long would it take? Just say someone like me, I've never used it before, but I'm fairly familiar with WordPress. I've used a plug-in kind of template before. How long do you think it would take me to make a custom template with something like Headway or Thesis?
I would say a couple days would be a safe bet. I mean, you could have something up and running in a couple hours, but I mean, to tweak it the way you want, just a little bit. If you're, I mean, when I have a site, and even when I design mine, which is super simple, like I'll spend 4 hours like making one box look just the way I want. So,
totally. I'm with you on that.
On how anal you are to answer that question fully.
Awesome. And kind of going a further step, would you ever recommend someone just completely go to a designer and say, make me something beautiful, or?
I think that is a good option, and there's really very little difference, I think, between something like that and maybe buying a theme, because you are paying money and you are getting something that you can't really change. So to me, that is the kind of bigger trade-off to make, is how much understanding do I want to take or have of my website. The more you understand it, the more you're able to change things. If you are completely kind of afraid of that or not interested in that, then that's going to be something you outsource, but that's also going to be something that if you want something changed, you're going to have to go back to that person. So I think that's a fine model for certain people. It just means that you are then becoming dependent on other people for as long as you have your site. So if you're okay with something kind of staying static or needing constant help, I think that's a fine option for people. I tend to encourage people to understand what's going on, get at least a basic understanding of how to change things on their own, so that they're not always dependent on somebody else.
Yeah, no, that's good advice, Seth, really good. And just before we move on from the design, I suppose there's a section at the top of a site called a header, or places that you can put a logo, for example, where you might want to, even if you do buy, say, a plugin theme that someone else has already created, to make it a little bit more customized, you can put headers in. Where do you recommend people find these kind of headers? Or where could you?
It's a good question. It's actually probably one of the tougher parts, and as I try to explain it, and I even have tried to put videos together for it. It's a challenge for sure. One of the challenges being that you can find a theme you like, and the size of the header is going to be a set size, and you're kind of locked into that size. Which
would you get a designer to just make you a really cool header?
Yeah, I think that is one thing that is definitely worth perhaps outsourcing, and I that's actually one of the reasons that I recommend people doing some of the basic stuff on their own, because there are going to be things that they can't do as well that are worth perhaps getting some help with, and a logo or a header would definitely be one.
Where would you recommend someone goes for that?
For another site I used a site called Design Crowd. There's also 99 Designs, and these are basically crowdsourcing designs.
Yeah.
So you basically say, I'm willing to pay $200 for a logo. And then you get lots of people submitting different ideas, and you say, I like that one. Whoever wins gets that $200, but you get a really good kind of variety of looks, which is kind of fun as well.
Yeah, sure. And Design Crowd, I haven't used those. Are they just the same similar to 99 Designs, which I have used?
Yeah, it's probably the exact same concept.
Okay, that's cool. That's really, really good advice, because I know myself, if there's one piece of feedback that I get from people constantly since I launched my site is, your header sucks. So, I made it my New Year's resolution that I'm going to do something about actually the header on my site, because it's just very plain. I have a logo in there, which I got through 99 Designs. So yeah. So
the other thing, I think if people look at my website, you will see that my header is my name with two different colored words, and that's it. So I think if you can't afford a header or a logo, I would go simple before I would go bad.
Yeah.
So if you just want to have the name of your site up there or put it in a different color, I think that's fine. Or take an image that you took on vacation some point and put that up there as well. It doesn't have to be super designy to be successful.
Yeah, and I have a friend of mine who put up a blog recently. I'll put a link to it at the bottom of this. He got it from Fiverr. Do you know Fiverr.com?
No.
It's Fiverr.com. Basically, everything on the site is $5, and you just people will make you a custom header on it. Okay, you get what you pay for, but it's fine to get them started.
Yep.
So yeah, it's good.
And I think in general, especially people just starting out, they will let a lot of roadblocks come up, so that I can't find a logo I want, or they want to spend a lot of time or money making the perfect logo, or understanding everything about web hosting before they do that. And so I think in general, my advice would be get something up. And as you said, maybe a couple months later, you're going to say, you know what, that doesn't look the way I want, I need to redo it. But don't let those little kind of stumbling blocks slow you down. Having something up that you can get feedback on and improve upon is better than saying, you know what, I don't have the logo I want, I can't have a website. So yeah, that's some just quick advice.
Seth, that's awesome advice, because guaranteed 6 months down the road you'll want to change it. Well,
right.
It won't be exactly what you thought it was going to be before you started out. So yeah.
And on that note, so the logo that I got done through Design Crowd, I loved. I got the site all looking the way I wanted, and I've pretty much abandoned that site within a couple of months and kind of changed tacks. So even when you are confident that you are getting it done as well as you can, you're still going to be rethinking things. So it's better to get it up there than to let it slow you down.
Sweet. Okay, so we have a site that looks cool and is working, that we've got up. Now, how does somebody who maybe started, just say for an example, we would use a blog. How does somebody even think of making money from that blog?
There are a couple kind of, I guess the three, maybe four if you break the ladder into something, but there are a couple different ways of making money. The first one is obviously advertising, which is I think what people think of right off the bat. And I'll kind of go back over these in a second. The next would be kind of a variation of advertising, which is affiliate marketing. So you are basically promoting a little bit more directly than you would advertising. You're promoting a product or a person or a service. And then the third piece would be offering your own item to sell. And then I think that could be kind of subdivided into something like an ebook or probably an ebook, especially for a blogger, something kind of quick and tangible. And then the other would be more of a kind of information membership kind of program where it's a course or kind of consulting or some sort of kind of direct communication relationship with somebody to help people, whether that's a group of people or kind of a one-on-one setup. But that would be the kind of, I guess, highest level of direct interaction with selling something.
And would you recommend people focus on one or do a little bit of all of those?
I think there should be one that's going to be the core of your money making system. So you can obviously augment it with others, but I think, and this comes into part of that planning process as well. What is going to be the way that I'm going to make money with this website? If it's advertising, then you need to focus on a huge amount of traffic. And that doesn't mean you can't do some other pieces, but you are going to need to spend a lot of time on traffic and making sure that that traffic is going to be receptive to whatever you want to advertise. If you're doing affiliate marketing, you can probably get away with less traffic if you have a more engaged audience, but you're still going to want to be thinking about what are the products that I'm going to want to be promoting, how can I be offering content that's going to lead up to that, and how can I have a relationship with people that they're going to trust what I say when I want to say you should buy this product, that they're going to trust me as a authority. And then if you're actually trying to sell an ebook or a course or something like that, that is also a lot about establishing authority. It's also about creating really good content and having something of value that kind of can stand on its own. So you can definitely mix and match, but I think your strategy and your efforts are really going to be focused if you have an idea up front of which one you think is going to make the most sense for you.
Okay, cool. One thing, since I've even just started, the first day I started looking at kind of online marketing and stuff, one of the biggest things they say to you is grow your email list.
Yes.
And it's something I planned to do initially when I started my blog, and I just put absolutely zero focus on. I've always I have a little box on the side of my blog kind of where people can sign up for stuff, but I've never done anything with it, and hence I have, I wouldn't have much of an email list, a couple of hundred people, I'd say. My plan this year is to grow that to 10,000 people. So what steps would you recommend to me or anybody who is starting from scratch with almost, a small email list on how to grow it?
Well, first of all, I think you're right that is a huge... can be a huge tool in developing a business. So I think you're right to focus on that. And 10,000 is a lofty goal, but I think it's a good one.
Just before we move on, just in case anybody who's kind of new to this, why is it so important, Seth? Like, why would it be such a great thing for anybody to have like a few thousand or 10,000 or 100,000 people on an email list?
There are a number of reasons. The first one, I think that a mistake that a lot of people make when they think about selling is they assume that somebody's going to come to their website, see something they like, buy it, and then leave, and that's it. Like the perfect, beautiful transaction. And that just doesn't happen. Like people will rarely buy on their first visit to a website. So it's really about, and I think the list is the best way to do this. It's about developing a relationship with your audience. It's going to take 4 blog posts that they're notified of, or adding a little bit of personality in emails you send out, that they start to understand who you are, what you have to offer, how you're different than other people. And maybe on that 4th time, they're going to say, like, you know what, this guy knows what he's talking about. I'm ready to commit to his ebook, or his even something that you're doing with affiliate marketing, or a course or something like that. That it takes a while for people to kind of warm up to you. So I think you could do that through social media. I mean, to me, they are all methods of distribution. You have Facebook, Twitter, or email. I think email right now is just basically converting better. People are often distracted on social media, so it's kind of hard to get your message through, but it's not impossible to create that same kind of relationship through social media. But I find that email is the best way to do that. And then so that's it's to me, it's about kind of the long tail sale to people, and really about developing a relationship.
Okay, awesome.
As well as if you have 10,000 people and you want to push something one specific day, you immediately reach 10,000 people. It's a lot easier than putting something up and hoping that eventually 10,000 people filter through that. So it can be a nice on-off switch when you need it to.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. So just before I kind of interrupted there, you were going to tell us just how someone might even begin to start growing an email list. Just say someone wanted to grow, had a goal to have 1,000 or 10,000 or whatever.
I think once you get past the technical pieces, which is signing up for the service and creating your box, it's really about value.
So which service would you recommend if someone...
I'm a huge fan of Aweber. It costs $19 a month, and then if you get to a certain point, you're going to start paying more for the larger your list is. My general thinking is, if your list is that large, it's worth paying for. MailChimp is a free option, though they actually, one thing that has disappointed me about them the last couple months, or a couple months ago, they kind of set up a rule in their sign-up thing about affiliate marketing, and that it's still unclear how hard they're going to come down on people who are doing affiliate marketing through MailChimp. But that is something, if somebody's considering an affiliate marketing based website, I would probably shy away from MailChimp. But if you're not going that route and you're concerned about money, MailChimp is free for the first 2,000 people, I think, and it is a good way to get started.
That's really interesting. And just if anyone's not familiar with affiliate marketing, in principle means you could email out send an email out with MailChimp with a link saying, hey, I recommend this product, and if someone clicks and buys it, you get a commission on it.
Right.
It could be anything from 3% to like 50-75%.
Correct.
And MailChimp possibly. That was really interesting. I didn't know that. So that's really good to know. So we've done the technical bit, set up, and you can kind of plug that into the site so people can sign up. How do you get people to actually put their email address in?
So to me, there's then 2 kind of steps. One is placement, making sure that you are making that it is obvious that is an option and a good option for them. A couple places throughout your site, and the top ones for me are the upper right of your sidebar. Below any blog post or article that you put up there. And I'm also a fan of the feature box, which is kind of like on the home page, a larger box that encourages people to sign up right away.
So that last one, Seth, where would that go?
So on a home page, it would basically be the first thing that you see. And if anybody goes to my website, SethLeonard.com, you'll see a feature box at the top. It's got my picture. It says why you should sign up, and it's got a sign-up box ahead of any other content that anybody's seeing. So that's becoming a little bit more popular as the number of sites that have it. It's a good way if people are not necessarily willing to buy on the first visit to a website, but they are willing to sign up to an email list for free if they are convinced right away that there's going to be some value in return for that. So that would be the another good place to get signups.
Well, that's really good advice. Now, I have mine in the top right-hand corner. Have it nowhere else. It's just one of the I need it in more places. So that's one of the many things I need to change. So
yeah, when we go over your site, I actually have a couple of thoughts on that. So,
awesome. Well, let's dive right in. So I kind of mentioned
one more thing actually before you do that. So the other thing is giving value for that email is always encouraged. So sometimes if you are writing great content, sometimes you can just say get updates and you will get a ton of people.
Okay.
If you are not necessarily writing groundbreaking content, you sometimes need to give somebody, encourage them with something a little bit greater. So whether that's a free ebook, a guide, a video, even just a list of resources, give them something that they can't get on your website in exchange for signing up, and make it as valuable as possible.
Great idea. Yeah, of course. That's really, really good, Seth. Okay, so Seth, I mentioned to Seth beforehand that my site is. I was kind of looking at it over Christmas, thinking, I need to tweak this a little bit. So Seth kindly went over it before the session and has some recommendations. So I told him not to be gentle. So
all right.
Show the entire.
Okay, so let me pull up your site as well. Let me know when you're ready.
Yeah. Here we go. Can you see it now?
I see it on my screen. I see it on your screen as well.
Great. Okay, so here is my blog, startupremarkable.com. Haven't done much with it since I launched it pretty much a year ago. So, what sucks?
Hold on. Let me try to actually make your version a little bit. Okay. First of all, nothing sucks. I think you're doing fine. The first thing for me, and maybe this is actually kind of related to the feature box piece, is I think your tagline is great, the helping kick-ass entrepreneurs, but I think kind of beyond that, for a first-time visitor, I'm not sure what the next step is other than the latest blog post. And I think this is something that bloggers kind of don't think about, is if you're doing blog posts, which is great, but that means that your latest blog post becomes kind of the entry point to your website. So sometimes that might be a great blog post that's completely relevant and makes sense. Other times it might be a little bit off topic, and that's going to be somebody's first introduction. So on your site, I would probably like to see some sort of kind of start here option, whether that was actually using the term start here, or a feature box, or just a quick description, or something up at near the top that somebody who doesn't necessarily want to read about your 2012 goals might be able to dig into kind of what your site is about and what they're going to get out of it.
Yeah, that's really good. So where would you like to see that? Up here or part of the header?
I think it could definitely be in the header. I mean, I've seen some websites will actually put a start here item in the navigation bar.
Okay.
I should also say with all of these, I think I always recommend testing as much as possible. So set out with a goal, try something. You might find that the Start Here link in your navigation bar works better than a feature box. You might find out that the feature box far outperforms that. So I'll give you a couple of recommendations, but I think it's worth testing for you or anybody else looking to make changes. But one option would be in your header above the navigation. One option would be in the navigation using some sort of Start Here kind of terminology. And then the other would be in a kind of a box that would go above, right below your navigation, but above your first blog post that talks about, I mean, it's similar to your kind of about box on the right.
Yeah.
But one other thought that I had is, I think your 999 to 1 million is a pretty unique concept and a pretty cool concept.
Okay.
And I might like to see that page a little bit more prominent.
Okay.
So that could be something, whether it's tying in with the ticker on your right side or something, but maybe making that a little bit more obvious and kind of explaining that this is what this site is about. I'm going to go through this journey. You're going to come along with me. Sort of thing, but giving them a place to kind of have an introduction to what your site is about and what they're going to get out of it.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, because I did have that here, and I moved it around a bit, and just wasn't quite sure where the best place for that is. So that's really good advice. Anything else? Like, okay, why am why do I not have 10,000 people signed up for my email list so far?
Before you do that, while we still have the navigation,
okay.
I think the navigation is actually an important tool. And the interviews thing, obviously I'm benefiting from that right now, as I hope other people are, but I think interviews, I try to use as kind of value driven words in navigation as possible. So an interview in and of itself might not be valuable except for the content that's in there. So either, I don't know if there's a different way to phrase that, or like expert interviews or something like that, or actually breaking it down based on the content that is in there. So you could have a section about web advice, or a section about business advice, or a section about goals advice, and then you would put interviews in that section, because people, I think, would be more interested in knowing, here's where I'm going to learn about business or about technology stuff, rather than it's just an interview, if that makes sense.
So that is such good advice. You know, I didn't even think about that, and it's classic, like, marketing. You talk about the benefit, not about the function of it. And I was looking at, I have a couple of analytics programs on my site. One of them is Google Analytics, but another one is something called Crazy Egg, which allows you to kind of heat maps your site, and it shows where people click. And I found that not that many people were clicking the interviews, but I know that a lot of people watch them when they're on the homepage. So I couldn't quite understand that, and that makes a lot of sense now. So yeah, that's great.
And in terms of your list, the first thing is I'd like to see that be in the upper right. And I think that's maybe another reason for switching out the kind of welcome about section to somewhere else, is that you can get that sign up box even closer to the top of the page.
Really? Okay. That we're talking about the email sign up now.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I think you probably need some, I would encourage some sort of incentive for signing up. That could be an ebook, that could be, if you don't want to create new content, it can also just be a packaging of the content you already have. You could say, like, get my top 10 interviews, or the 5 best blog posts I've ever written, or whatever it is. You don't have to necessarily create new content, but I would give them some value or incentive for signing up, and then just make that first email they get, give them whatever that is, whether it's a list of current content or something new you create. I'd give them a little bit of an incentive.
And I know I need to do that. Thanks for pointing it out, because I know I've just been kind of on the list of things to do. So yeah, that's really, really good advice.
And I think, similarly to what I said earlier, if you might want to say do an ebook or something like that. That's really going to get people. But if you don't want to wait for that point to try to increase your signups, then you can just do something, packaging content you already have, leave that up for a couple months until you have your ebook ready, and then you're in better shape and you've benefited in the meantime.
Of course, that's really good. And can I ask then, Seth, just kind of lastly, for people that have sites like on WordPress and blogs, just like mine is, along the right hand side we can put widgets in. Is there any, apart from kind of, I suppose, the obvious Twitter plugins and stuff like that, is there any kind of new things that you see out there that you would recommend people that they can plug into their sites that gives benefit?
Sure. I'm actually somewhat changing my opinion on the social media plugins. I'm not convinced that they're the best thing to put there. One of the reasons being that they are then actually taking people off of your site, which you never necessarily want to do unless they're going to get better value from you wherever they're going.
Okay.
So there's Twitter now has a Twitter follow button, which you can just plug in and somebody can click follow. They don't need to actually go to Twitter to start following you. So I really like that because you then aren't losing traffic and you're still getting that Twitter follower. You can do something similar with Facebook, where you basically create a like button, but you point it to your Facebook page, and then you can just have that button in your sidebar, and they can click like, and they don't again have to leave your page. So
nice.
There's definitely some cool features in having a social media widget, and you get some kind of social proof, and you get kind of a little bit of extra content that might not be on your site, but I think it's worth considering, is that driving people from your site or keeping them there.
Okay.
The thing that I really like to see in a sidebar are either resources. So you could also just create a widget that says like my 3 top posts, or the 3 most popular posts I've ever written, or the posts that get the most comments, or something that is driving them to content that you really like. And
Seth, how would someone practically, like, okay, it's a good idea, but I can't code, I can't build that. Like, how would somebody get something like that so they can put it in the sidebar of their site?
There are WordPress plugins that cover most of that. So you can do it based on popularity. I don't know if you can do it based on how many people have read it, but there's probably going to be a couple different plugins for that. I don't know them off the top of my head, but if you are in WordPress, you go to widgets or plugins and you do search for new. I'm sure if you typed in popular posts or something like that, you're going to find the ones that show those. You also can hand pick those and then just use a text widget and just bring in the text and link to the post that you like the best, or that if you find that you have posts that are converting really well to your email list, and that's a great reason to have Google Analytics or something like that, is if you find you have one blog post that is converting people to your email list, you want as many people to read that blog post as possible. So put that in the sidebar as like my top 3 posts or most popular posts or whatever you want to call it, and drive people to those high converting blog posts.
Okay, that's really, really good advice. Well, Seth, that's absolutely great stuff. Just before we kind of finish up, somebody who maybe is either thinking of having a site or has a site and hasn't done a lot with it, well, what's the kind of the one piece of advice you give to them that they could really kind of action straight away?
I think know what you want is perhaps the simplest one, but I think a lot of people get caught up in technology. They get caught up in what other people are doing. They get caught up in what experts are telling them they need to do, and they need to be on Twitter, they need to be on Facebook, and they need to have this. And there are a million different paths to success. And so if you know what you want, like that makes all of your other decisions a lot easier. If you say like, I need to make $1 million in 999 days, like you're gonna make decisions based on that. You're not gonna do things that are gonna waste your time, are gonna be gimmicky, or that somebody else said you should do just because you think you need to do them. It's gonna keep you focused, and it's gonna. I find when I have something that I'm shooting for, it allows me to kind of work backwards and say like, okay, how am I going to do that? I need an email list. Okay, how do I get an email list? Okay, I need the technology, and then I need the strategy, and then I need the incentive or things like that. And as long as you have that kind of goal in mind, whether you are starting from scratch or already in the middle of running something, I find it just keeps you focused and allows you to figure out what you need to learn. And make sure that you don't waste your time doing things that don't actually help you do the one thing that you're trying to accomplish.
Sure. Focus. It's an important thing. Sounds easy to have. It is bloody difficult to have, isn't it? When there's so many shiny objects out there, especially on the web, but it's really, really good advice. That's great, Seth. So Seth, you're online, you've got a great blog, and you've got this awesome free resource which shows people how to can get started from scratch with no experience, and in 4 days they'll have a site that they can start using. Just can you share those with us, what those websites are?
Sure. The blog is at sethleonard.com, SETHLEONARD.com.
Yeah.
And I have a couple other kind of resources along with that site in terms of guides to get you started. And then the free course is the web launch, which is at theweblaunch.com. And that's going to be, as you said, 4 days. You're going to get an email every day with the thing that you're supposed to do that day. It's going to walk you through step by step. And at the end of 4 days, you'll have a website.
That is so cool. That is really, really cool thing. Great.
I'm excited about it. I actually just launched it this week, so I'm excited to get people using it. I've already gotten some great feedback, and I want to see as many websites launched as possible.
Yeah, and a great way to build an email list as well, because people will put in their emails, so that is absolutely brilliant. Well, Seth, thanks very much. I'll put all those links at the bottom of the blog post, and it's been a pleasure. You really know your stuff, and I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot, and it's great to finally catch up. So I know we've been chatting for a while now, so that's really good.
So was great.
Absolutely. Thanks, everybody. You've been listening to StartupRemarkable.com, and chat to you again soon.